I have this thing I kind of want to do, but I cannot see the vision. I
Yeah.
cannot create it. And that's rare for me. Like I'm so like,
It's all,
you
yeah,
know,
you're always on point.
yeah. So when it happens, it really hits me hard because it's so rare and I really don't know how to get through that. So if anyone has answers, I'm all ears. But for me personally, what I do is I go
Right.
back to the very beginning. It's like what inspires you? What inspired you?
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
And talented photographer Daniel Adimora. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just another day on the grind, you know. So definitely grateful to be able to do what I love for a living. So and grateful to be on the podcast with you. This is sweet.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you said it right there. You know, on the grind never stops. That's for sure. Even when you think it's over, it's just begun. And that's kind of how I felt coming back from the Nima Nash tour, which we'll get into. That's where we kind of became acquainted and developed a friendship. And now we're here on the podcast, you know, discussing our journeys and getting to know each other even better, enlightening the audience on our, you know, kind of experiences and what we've kind of gone through and what shaped us and defined us as creatives to this day.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, Daniel, such a pleasure to have you join me as a guest. We met in Vancouver, I should mention. You know, I'm in Toronto right now. You're in Vancouver. And we had a little bit of a mix up with the time change, time difference, I should say. What am I saying? But that's normal, right? Like that's how it is. I just work for an LA company. So I always forgot that I was like 3 hours ahead, which works to some advantages, I would say. But yeah, we met on the podcast, the behind the scenes podcast of Enjoy Your 24. Great guys, great crew you guys had. Basically, you know, interviewing Nima Naz and Mark Anthony Synagoga as they were touring across Canada for the I'm Your Sugar Daddy tour. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah, just catching up, just seeing kind of creatives in the works. And getting to know you as well, you know, with your badass Sony FX camera, you know, just flash and flexing that on mine. You know, I got the A7 III. I'm looking to upgrade soon, but man, like when you told me the price tag of that, I'm like, yo, I got to do it. It's a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a side note.
I was saving for a while for that, for sure. You know, I was just saying I was saving for a little bit. I was going to get the A7 like a year and a half ago. I was saving like all year for that.
Yeah.
And then I decided to hold off. I can't remember why I didn't buy it. Oh, I think because I wanted to like just go out like I want to get the Ninja, the camera, the lens, everything. And so I was saving for the full package. And I started hearing about the FX 3. And I was like, oh, like what is this right now? And started looking to other cameras and whatnot. So I just waited like 2-3 years and just kept saving. So that's the only reason I was able to get it. I just didn't pull the trigger sooner on the Sony.
Yeah, no, for sure. No,
7 III.
Yeah, I think I believe you did the right thing. Even the comedians were complimenting you. They had no idea what the technology was all about, but they heard the name and they knew it was a badass camera. When I heard it, my eyebrows raised and I said, oh, I'll just put my little toy away. You know what I mean? I was like, I honestly felt really small in the room, you know, but nonetheless, I admire that you're, you know, involved in the craft. You're hustling, you're doing your thing. It was admirable to see you work away. You know, just wanted to know a side note. How does it shoot the FX, Sony FX in night? Is it even better, more superior?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Night and day.
I love it. Night and day. That being said, I'm coming from like the Canon family, which is not bad, but it's not as good as Sony in the night and in low light situations. And the last camera I had was a 77D, so it wasn't even like Canon's top line. So for me, it's a game changer. I have used the 7S, the Sony A7S before, S3, and I like it. I think it's good. I can't mentally remember the picture difference between that in low light and mine in low light, because I know they were both better than my Canon. But like right now, it's just ridiculous. The work I'm able to shoot in low light, like it's night and day difference.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so happy to hear about that. And yeah, that's definitely something on my wish list, something that I'm looking to invest in. But getting back to, you know, you as a photographer, your career, I want to know, how did you become one?
Yeah. Good question. So it's kind of been an interesting journey. So actually, it started in high school, really, is where the whole love and passion came from.
Right.
And I'm primarily actually a videographer. That's like my main bread and butter. And photography actually kind of came along with it.
That's right. That's right. You were explaining
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it is. But now I do like, it just depends whatever the client asks for at this point, right? But yeah, I started in high school. I used to play basketball. And my basketball coach was the film teacher when I was in grade 12. So I was like, okay, I just want to have my coach as my teacher.
Right.
Let me take this course.
Yeah.
So I ended up just taking this course just for fun, just to like, I think it's an easy A, right? Because my coach is a teacher.
Exactly.
And I ended up falling in love with it. And I remember the moment I fell in love. It was we were trying to make a commercial so we can pick whatever brand, whatever we want to do. And I decided to do a Nike commercial. And yeah, just the amount of work that I put into that, excuse me. I think I put like 30 hours at the time for like this 30-second video, which
Oh, wow.
now I look back at it. Yeah, I'm like, honestly, that would take me like legit 45 minutes shooting and editing now to do. It's just like,
but that was one of
time.
That was one of your first projects you're explaining. So that's why it took you such a long while. Wow. That's insane.
A long time. Yeah. But I really put my heart and soul into it. I really was like, oh my God, I can shoot a Nike commercial. Like, this is sick. I'm just watching like all these videos online, like of actual Nike commercials on YouTube, and just trying to, duplicate something. And I won an award for that in high school. So it's just such a
that's amazing.
Such a rewarding experience. Yeah, that I just fell in love with it. And just kept doing it for fun. I didn't have a camera after high school, so it's just like whenever I see a shooter, whatever, I'd always ask questions whenever I see a photographer. And then a couple years after, I got my first camera. Again, mostly videography, a bit of photography.
Right.
Photography just kind of go together, especially because photography, in my opinion, is easier, at least afterwards, for editing.
Oh, 100%. It's not as instantaneous, right? It's more of a process, post-production for video. 100%.
Exactly. And you can be so much more creative with video, which is why I liked it. But then it's like that creativity can lead you down 10 paths. And then you end up being like, you know what, I want to start again, do something different. So it's like, with photography, it's like you got one photo to focus on, right? So anyway, it's just a wrap up. Yeah. So just kept doing that for fun. Got my first camera maybe 6 years ago now. Started taking it more serious about 3 years ago. And now I'm here, now I do it every day.
Well, it sounds like a marvelous story. It sounds like you killed it, making that Nike commercial. What a great breakthrough into the industry, right? A first kind of exposure for yourself, working for a high profile brand like that. And I love that you said it served as an inspiration, like going online and seeing, how you could best approach the project, because commercials like Nike, Adidas, car commercials, really the basis of marketing begins with those brands. Coca-Cola, I should mention. And I actually studied that in university, so I can relate highly to intertwining, marrying the two, I should say, like film, photography, and marketing, product branding, all that things together. Because essentially it all comes down to storytelling, right?
Absolutely.
If we look at it, right? Like you and I, again, like to refresh the audience, we met on this I'm Your Sugar Daddy tour, this for comedians. And, before this tour, I would never have thought I'd be working with comedians, because I just didn't see that being my route, as a film director. And then I take a step back and said, as a creative person, I always believe in this notion that creativity knows no bound. And if you want to tell a story, it can be told in any which way or in any medium. As for yourself, right? You went from video to photography. So that's really exciting and insightful. And I'm so happy that you pursued another avenue. And it's working in your favor, as we'll discuss more. So, but before we get into that, I want to know now, making this transition, making this move into the arts, did you go to school for it? Did you kind of learn the craft at a post-secondary institution? Or did you just shadow like a highly skilled apprentice in the industry?
Yeah, honestly, I'm going to say I got really lucky on this to be where I'm at right now, even though I'm still like nothing compared to other people in the world. But I never went to school for it. The only course I've ever taken really was just that high school course, at least before I took it serious. Like right now, I'll go like buy different online courses and whatnot. I'm sure I don't know if you heard, probably full-time filmmaker. Peter
might have, yeah.
Yes, like I've taken his course, into a bunch of different stuff. So I take courses here and there, but I never went the traditional route of going to like film school or taking photography classes in university. I studied business and engineering in university. So like complete opposite of like what I do now. But
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, it's just an interesting, just something I've always enjoyed it. Like, it's weird. I'll tell you some stories. Like, I remember
For
I
sure.
was that kid in like elementary school that would actually pay attention to the commercials. Like, till today, I still pay attention to the commercials. Like, I would be like, how do they shoot that? Like, you see the chips falling in slow motion, and like, like, how do they do that? And like the fruits like splash in the water for some like
So happy you
pop
said that, man.
commercial.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I can resonate for sure. Yeah, in the same way,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I was fascinated to this day. Like even before a movie starts in a theater, they play like 500 commercials, and I'm
Yeah.
always fascinated by how they're all shot cinematically, right? With the
Mhm.
music and just how the scenes are constructed, the cinematography involved. So yeah, I agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah, so true. And I remember a funny story when I was a kid. I will never forget this day. It was so like, I don't know what happened to me, but I was like, I think 9 years old at the time, 9 or 10. We just came to Canada like a year or two ago. I came to Canada when I was 8, and we were watching TV. We were watching Tom and Jerry. Um, oh man, those cartoons, good old days.
Yeah, of
Anyways,
course.
watching Tom
Yeah,
and Jerry,
love it.
some commercial comes on, and I remember being so fixated by the commercial that as soon as the commercial ended, there was another commercial, and between that like second commercial and the first one, I forgot what show we were watching.
That's
I remember
crazy.
I was with my siblings. I was like, "Wait, what show were you watching?" They're like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "No, seriously, like, what are we watching?" They're just mocking me, like, "Dan,
Yeah,
shut
yeah.
up!" Like, you know what we're watching? We were just watching it. But like, I was so captivated by that commercial and just intrigued by it that I genuinely could not remember that we were watching Tom and Jerry. And I was so frustrated because I was like, I know I'm about to find out in 30 seconds once the commercials are over, but I want to know now because how the hell do I forget when I just watched it a minute ago? And then like I'm just like confused, and all of a sudden, boom, it pops. I'm like, oh yeah, Tom and Jerry. My siblings don't even remember it to this day because they thought I was joking. I guess it's just like some insignificant part of their life. But to me, that just like shook me how intrigued I was by commercial and ads, and to me just showed that ads obviously work. And to this day, I've never forgotten that, and I've always been interested in like ads and marketing since that age, and I guess from that experience. And I think that's why when I took this course in high school, I was like, super invested into it because of those experiences growing up and just paying attention to those things. Like even in high school, I remember before taking this course, this is kind of like how I learned. I would watch YouTube videos. It's a program or a company called Ball is Life. They're a huge basketball media organization.
Right.
And they'll make like highlight tapes. So they were like the first of their kind in like 2010, early 2000s, where they'll make like fancy, flashy looking highlight tapes for these basketball players. And I would watch it on YouTube. And I remember I'd like pause and play like frame by frame to see like, try and figure out how do they do that. It'd have been much
Yeah.
easier just to go to school for this probably, but
Reverse engineer it, right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
exactly. I try and reverse engineer everything. Even today, like if I'm watching Netflix, I don't have a roommate now, but my old roommate would sometimes get annoyed because like I'll be like, yo, hold on, just pause that for a second. Let's just play that back. And I'm trying to figure out like the camera angles. So
Yeah.
long story short, that's me. Like I've never I never went to school for this. I've always just really been paying attention to everything visually that I see. If I'm on my phone, I see some app. If I'm seeing an ad on Snapchat, just anything visual, I pay attention to it and I really think about it. Like I don't skip over ads. I don't really think like, oh, what is that? I want to buy it. I'm thinking like, how do they shoot that? What kind of equipment do they use? And then I'll do research. Like I'll go search things up. Like what equipments are used, why, what are the best apertures and settings? How do they have to set the environment? I'll look into behind the scenes on different movie sets or TV shows, and it's so interesting. So many small things that you don't think about. For example, like how much weather plays into the shooting of a film is ridiculous. You got this shot where the lighting was at this certain point of the time of the day, and now it's gone. Now you have to wait 24 hours to the next day to get the same lighting to shoot the exact same scene that if the lighting was in a studio, you're just doing the next 45 minutes to an hour. But because of time, the lights change, so simple things like that you don't really notice or pay attention to or think about when you're watching the movie that you're like, oh, no, that's a huge point.
But we notice.
Exactly.
Creative people notice. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
And I love that you gave just that whole speech about being in a constant state of curiosity, because that's what you need to be as an artist. And I find that highly commendable about you. Just getting to learn more about you, just how inquisitive you are and detail oriented and observant, really. That's something that my whole life, even before I was a creative or got into the arts, I always saw that as like a natural kind of state of mind. I was always like observing the smallest things in life. People often like would joke or comment, oh, you're very observant. And I see how vital that is, how critical it plays into a role of a creative individual like yourself or like me, right? Where you need to be always looking at, how things are constructed or why are things made a certain way. I guess always being in a reasoning, always asking yourself or questioning whatever you're viewing, not taking it at face value, right? And that's why I brought up the reverse engineer. It's like, let's say I produce a video that you really enjoyed, or you produce a photograph that I really enjoyed myself. I'm going to ask those questions, or I'm going to investigate how you got those shots, how you got to that point, that state of mind, right? That vision. How did you realize it all the way through? So yeah, no, that's great, man. I'm so happy you're on the right path, and how you should approach your material as a creative. And you're always, again, staying curious, keeping youthful in that energy and that spirit. Because as creatives, like, I like what you mentioned about the video aspect. It's like, it's more strenuous, the post-production process. And at times for me, what's crazy is that it can get boring because your mind's like already think about the next project and you're like already done with it, but that's the discipline, right? You got to kind of stick through with it. So photography allows you for more of that instantaneous kind of, reward, that dopamine hit. But nevertheless, we do it because, like you said, it's in our nature. It's kind of like all we kind of see ourselves doing, in that curiosity. But that's great, man. So like I mentioned before, we were capturing the behind the scenes footage of Nima Naz Mark Anthony Synagoga in Vancouver. And, we were proud to see you were hired for the comedy show at the Vancouver venue, because again, you were covering the behind the scenes for Enjoy Your 24. And then when I saw you pop up for that venue, I was like, oh, look at this guy hustling, killing it. And the whole team loved your work. We shared it in our group chat. And that you went above and beyond. It reminded me of myself. Kind of had a little bit of a smile on my face watching your video. You made yourself like a little edit, even though you weren't kind of like hired to do so, or you were asked to do so. You kind of just went above and beyond, which is something, again, highly admirable in this business, especially. So I want to know, like, how do you develop and acquire your clients for this business?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on a new system to do it more streamlined. So right now it's just kind of like random on the
freelance, run and gun,
freelance. Yeah. Just
is this full time for you? If I interject,
it's full time. So I feel like I've been doing this for so many years that people know I do this. Okay. So I get a lot of referrals. I have a few customers repeating. I have like a few like main clients that I'll get to how I got them. But awesome. A lot of the work is just kind of like word of mouth, like just here and there.
Yeah,
like 100%. How I got this is one of my new clients. Actually, let me tell you how I got to how we're on this call. It's super funny.
Yeah.
So it all started in the club.
Oh, okay.
That's the funny part.
Oh, we're going way back.
Yeah, or not even like probably like just this summer, like a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so not too far ago, but just to understand like how I get my business, because I feel like the way I am is the reason why I will be successful. Like you said, like people like us, we're always inquisitive, we're always curious, we're always trying to just figure this out and be out there.
Someone like personable too. Like what I'm saying is, like when I met you and we connected, I loved your attitude and your aura. Like you're very receptive.
Thank you.
And I like that you're a good sport. That I said, you want to be on the podcast, not to validate me or kind of like satisfy anything that I need, but it's like the fact that you want that exposure, you want to talk about your story, and you see the benefit of that. That's when I knew, like, absolutely. Yeah, you're on the right path. But yeah, just wanted to interject that.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's great. So yeah, basically what happened was I'm the kind of guy where it's like, I love, like you just said, in person, I love talking to people, new people. And I'm always thinking business, bro. I'm always thinking
like, I got some
big plans, man. I'm telling you right now. Anyways.
Awesome. Yeah. For sure.
So I'm in the club and I'm just like networking with people. And I just randomly ask like some people, like, hey man, randomly, I know we're all drinking and shit, but does anyone here like want a free video or need a video for the business? I'm looking for media service or anything like that. Just at the club randomly, right? And one guy's like, actually, I know like some of my buddies have businesses that might want this. So like I could introduce you to them if you want, like, sure. So introduce me to just their table and just like them talk. Cause I leave my table, go to their table, just introduce myself, whatever, and exchange contact with one guy. And after he's like, yeah, I got this, shoot that I'm setting up like in a couple of weeks. If you want to come out, like I already got people for it, but if you want to just kind of see how we do it, you can come get your own content and I was like, yeah, honestly, it'd be a great way to build my portfolio. Now, the reason I was doing this, offering people free work, is because prior I only did sports and I only did basketball for the most part. And I'll explain how I got those clients in a second. And that's kind of like my bread and butter. But I'm just like, man, I want to do more. So let me just like network, just literally everywhere I go. If I have a good conversation, hey, do you know anyone that has a business that could use media work? Literally, that's my line. Every time I meet someone to have a good connection, hey, do you know anyone that has a business and could use media work? Simple. So this guy invites me. I come to a shoot like a month later, and it's just like a few like fitness girls and models, stuff like that at the nutrition store. And they have the photographer. And long story short, I did exactly for him what I did for you and for Nima. I went above and beyond. So he only needed a few photos. Didn't even need my content because he had a photographer there. But I decided to give them photos and videos for it and create a month worth of content for the Instagram, because I noticed the Instagram wasn't very good. And it's so funny because after I did that, I ended up staying like 2 hours longer than the shooter to be able to get enough content for it all. And it was after I created it, then the owner told me, hey, honestly, like the person I've been working with hasn't been doing a good job. We haven't like wanted her to do better, but after seeing your stuff, like we're considering replacing you with her.
Sorry, this is the Vancouver show?
No, this is
the club.
So this the guy at the club. And he has a nutrition store now.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, so wanted me to take over the media for the nutrition store. So I was like, sure, let me do it.
There you go.
So I got them as a client. So we just started, actually, this was 2 weeks ago, we started working with them officially. And then he tells me, hey, I got a buddy who's looking for a photographer for something. And I just saw on his Instagram story. Okay, cool. So he refers me to it. I find out, so that's Enjoy Your 24. That's Mohammed, right?
Oh, right.
Mohammed's a coach in the basketball community. So he already knew me from the work I did for the basketball league. And so it's like, yeah, let's definitely work together. So that's how I got that gig. And then from there, obviously I'm trying to do more, grabbing photos of everyone, connecting with Oled, or what's his name again? Omid. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So connected with him, then he just asked me like, if I was interested in photos and whatnot. I was like, sure, right. So just one thing after the other. That's kind of how I ended up connecting with you guys and being there. But it's funny because it all started by me in a club randomly asking some friends and people, does anyone know anyone who has a business that needs media? Simple, right? Exactly. So I'm a huge like advocate for just putting yourself out there in any facet like this. Who knows who's going to see this podcast and want to do some work with me in the future because, I saw this guy on a podcast like 6 months ago and I loved what he was saying, blah, 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 blah. Just, you never know.
Exactly.
So always put yourself out there. Yeah.
No, that's why, again, I commended you on coming on the podcast. It wasn't for validate me like, I need guests. You know what I mean? It's like, why wouldn't this guy want to come on my podcast? It wasn't an ego driven thing. It was more like as a creative, you would want to get your name out there as much as you can. Obviously you have to see if it aligns with your brand and like, you don't want to be on anyone's podcast, right? If it doesn't kind of fit with your values. But if we're hitting it off, having a good time, like I've dealt with creatives, back to that point, it's like they were too shy or they were insecure about it or this and that. And I'm saying, how are you guys going to be successful? How are you guys going to get out there in an age of digital media? Like you have to constantly have some sort of presence, right? But I'm just saying as like, I liked your attitude, taking the risk, taking the challenge, putting yourself out there. I think that's so important. I often say with my buddies, showing up, that's the hardest part, right? Like, people think the content itself is hard, getting it done. Of course it's hard in its own right. But it all starts with showing up on that first day. Did you show up on that first day, right? And you've proven that time and again with the clubs, doing it for free, with that podcast behind the scenes and now with that Vancouver venue show, right? It's like you chose to show up all the time. Nothing was ever above you, beneath you. And you did the best you could with that. And now your name's out there, you know what I mean? And it's like, this is how the ball kind of keeps rolling, right? We have a podcast together. I remember you, we connect maybe on a future project when I come to Vancouver, whatever happens, you know what I mean? You maybe come to Toronto, you know what I mean? Like that's how it starts, right? So it all starts with showing up because I saw you there. That's how it took off, right? But yeah, that's awesome, man. So you answered my question a bit. You said you're not working primarily for Enjoy Your 24. You have a bunch of freelance gigs happening. So that was just one of those moments I crossed paths with you. And you got several. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, because I know I kind of mentioned how I got business now.
Yeah,
I think you got to put your name out there for sure. But I feel like if you can create a system where it's like just consistent, right? And you can do the math on it. That's the best way to get business because then it's stress free. Because doing what I'm doing is only because I already have clients that pay the bills. Like, my main bread and butter is running event media. So I'm trying to get into the corporate world a bit more, but mostly sports. So basketball tournaments. I'll bring my crew. It'll be a couple $1,000s for the weekend, just like the budget. So it's good money. Split it between the crew. And like summertime, we're booked like every weekend, sometimes double booked.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty crazy. Yeah. So that's kind of what I do. And then now I'm just trying to do other things. But really what I would recommend if somebody asks me like, hey, how do you recommend I get business? You need to have a portfolio first and foremost. People need to see what you can do. You want to diversify that portfolio if you want to. Like I recommend people diversify, not doing one thing, but have a diverse portfolio, have your best work, and then offer free work, free to fee. It's something that Peter Walbeck stands by. It's like, hey, I'll do this for free. If you like it, then we can talk about working together.
That's something that I've recently adopted myself because I wasn't too crazy about that idea. Seeing how many years I spent in the business, but I learned quickly, like that's vital. If you really, especially working with bigger clients that have even more competition, right? Yeah. It's like, how else do you just say, yo, I want to work with you? Like you said, it's like, just give them something to like a demo. And if they don't like it, hey, you tried. But if they do like it, okay, now we can talk business, right?
Yeah. The biggest selling point in that is it's not even the work, it's you. You have to sell yourself.
Yeah, you're
because
right.
people do business with people at the end of the day, right?
You're right.
You and I can probably I know we can create great work, not probably. We both create great work, you know what I'm saying? And there's a bunch of other people out here that create great work, but it's like, why would someone pick me over you or you over me?
Exactly.
Most times it comes, right now, probably because of where we're located.
No, honestly,
some company in Toronto will pick you. But a lot of times it comes down to, hey, do I actually like this person? Are they on time? Do they communicate well? Do they keep their word, right? And are they a good person? Is it
professional?
Good energy? Professional, right? So it's like when you go with the free to fee model, first make sure it's a company that actually has money. Don't just offer some like high school kid, hey, I'll make you a free video.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, where's that gonna take me, right?
Like they can actually own up to, they can follow through with that promise.
Yeah. Unless you have 0 videos, you need to build a portfolio, then do whatever you can just to create a portfolio.
No, I'm talking at intermediate professional level. Like you can still, like I did that, for a couple of times. Where I just would do a project. Also, it's because, the value I'm providing, it's something that's for the brand that's they've never seen before. You know what I mean? Like that's a whole different conversation. So if you're going to a brand and you're saying, I could do this for you, right? You got to help them realize that vision. And the only way to do it is to actually do it. You know what I mean? You can't just talk about it. So what I'm saying is that's what I had to do a couple of times. But now that people can understand, where I'm coming from, I like what you said. It's like, people do business with people, not, the product, not what you're offering. Yes, that serves a huge vital point, but it all starts with who you are as an individual. And I've gotten praise for that many times. Whoever I'm corresponding with directly, that we chose you out of other, directors because you're the one that not only had the vision, but, had the etiquette, had the professionalism. These other guys weren't even bringing value. They were just kind of like, hit me up if you need me. And it's like, you tell me what you need. Why would I hit you up? You know what I mean? So it's like, that was a lot of that was very flattering to hear, because I didn't realize that. Like I always knew, especially the clients I deal with, like there's always going to be competition and there's already people like messaging, but I had no idea, because I feel grateful. Like out of all the people singled out, I was chosen because it all goes back to, the values that were instilled with me by my parents. God bless them. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've just how to deal with people, how to talk to people, always be respectful. And like I said, and like we said, go above and beyond. You know what I mean? Like there are so many times where I would do work that I wasn't getting paid for, or like, and not even that, it's just like the hours. Like people say, like, calculate how much hours it'll take you. And it's like, listen, it might take me this amount of hours, it might take me that. But if I tell them a fee and then we agree on the fee, I'm not going to start charging more because it took more hours. And it's like, I do it because I want it to be done at the best of its ability, and it requires that much creativity, right? Obviously, like you have to assess the client and, have a trust with them. You know what I mean? Like you're not being taken advantage of. But
that happens a lot in this industry.
No, but you get my point. You get my point. It's like pick and choose your battles. Like if you're dealing with a trustworthy client, and you develop a strong relationship, it's like an honor system with them. You don't want to start saying, I'm going to charge you more because like this is costing me way too much. It's like, no, it's like, go a little bit above and beyond, and they'll remember you like even more so than the other guy. You know what I mean? It's kind of create a relationship with these people as opposed to just a business transaction. So yeah, I respect exactly what you said. And man, just learning more about you on this podcast, I really admire, you know, the head you got on your shoulders. You seem very focused and career driven. So I just have to throw that out there. So, you know, speaking of your videography skills, your photography skills, and, you know, these endless clients that keep approaching you in the business, one thing I wanted to mention is people often discuss passive income. You know, our generation, they're always talking about how do you make money without, you know, working, right? My whole thing, what I'm trying to cultivate is a passive network, if that makes sense. And that basically means is I have people connecting for me in the background. So I don't even have to one day reach out myself. Do you know what I mean? Like my work speaks for itself. Do you get what I'm saying about that?
Yeah.
It's like,
Absolutely.
Instead of worrying about like, you know, this income that's like, hey, don't get me wrong, I still want to make that passive income eventually, or that multiple sources. I think at our stage in our life, or like in our career, we should really be focusing on that passive network, because a lot of clients, and I'm sure you can testify yourself, have come to me recently because of this network this brand I've created for myself and the work I've created, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I feel like it's all about who you know, not just what you know, right? It's who you're connected to and where that can take you. You never know. So I agree with that.
Well, look at yourself when you're doing free work, right? At the club.
Yeah.
That was like constantly networking, putting yourself out there. Now, I think you could argue in some respects, you have a passive network that people come to you and say, yo, I really saw how you worked. Like, you want to do this project? Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's called working smart, in my opinion. Like you're getting people to now come to you, and you can actually manage and assess which clients best suit the business, work with. Right? Yeah, exactly. So that's awesome, man. So going back to, again, the photography and videography aspect, you know, working in the business, are there any projects particularly that you favor more? Do you enjoy doing more corporate, either because of the money or the creativity involved, or do you enjoy doing smaller gigs like the Neiman Naz tour?
Yeah, I'm kind of, I mean, my favorite will always be sports, just because like I just love sports.
Oh, okay, right.
That will probably always be my favorite, but I mean, I only say that because I know that's my favorite right now. Like I'm starting to dabble into other things. I love the show because that was just such a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Right. So I just loved how quick and easy it was, and how great it was to meet more people. It was fun. I'm just laughing the whole time.
Yeah,
you know, like
green
that
room.
was pretty sweet.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Corporate. I like corporate because it pays good.
Yeah.
Dealing with corporate people is interesting. It's not really my style of work, but I mean, like, again, it's like you have so many levels of people that you got to communicate through to get the deal done and whatnot. I've only done a few, not like nothing special, but I definitely want to keep growing in the corporate area because I know that's going to be like where money is going to come from in the future, to be able to scale the business quickly. So, I mean, yeah, I like corporate for the money. I like it just because it's such a high level environment. But I feel like, yeah, sports would probably always be my favorite just because I am a sports guy, right? I just love that environment in general, even though it's honestly the most work. Like, people don't understand, sports videography is probably the hardest thing that I can think of that you'll
why
ever
is that?
do in a
Can you shed
world.
light on that?
Yeah, the reason is, and now the only thing I haven't done is like short films. Like I've never been I've been on movie sets and whatnot, but I've never like been through a whole process start to finish. So that's the only thing I can't compare to. I'm comparing more like small gigs, like you do like a corporate video for business, or you do professional headshots, or like what we did. That compared to sports, well, it's not comparable. Reason is, one, this like just trying to get the settings right is insane because it's such fast moving, right?
Such a fast-paced game, right?
You know what I'm saying? It's fast-paced. You got to get your settings dialed in. You have to get, and the challenge with that is the higher like the frame rate and whatnot, the higher the ISO needs to be. Now lighting comes into effect, and again, you're shooting a game. This is not a set. You can't control the lighting. Sometimes the lighting is horrible. Okay, do you have the right equipment? Which is why I had to upgrade my equipment, right? Because some gyms, like, it just looks, I might as well shoot on my iPhone. The lighting's so bad, and the camera just wasn't working, right?
Yeah.
So just like the settings alone is a pain. Second, the camera work, being able to track these players, follow them, and trying to get, like, if you want it, like, I really try to make my shots cinematic. I'll send you a link to a video I just did recently.
Yeah,
and
for
you
sure.
can tell, like, this is high quality work for the sports world, but it's like, I know these angles. It takes time to understand where are the angles are. Because think, there's a game going on. Like you're not going to stop the game and, hey, can you do that dunk again so I can get a different angle?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to know where the spots are, and it's a whole court. You got to move around it, right? Which is why I have a team, that way we can hit the different angles and not have to worry about missing things.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of like thinking that goes behind it, because you have one shot. Like tonight, there's a huge game going on, UBC versus SFU. You know, two pretty big schools, the two biggest schools in the province here, playing against each other. And it's like they only play each other once a year because they're in two different leagues. SFU's NCAA, so they play in the States. UBC CIS, so they play the top schools here,
right?
In Canada. So anyways, long story short, this is the one time they will play until next year again. So it's like, I've been planning all week for this game, literally, like what are the angles, this and that. And then you got to think even the post-production. When I make, like, for example, Nima's show, like the photos, simple, just, you know, put it in Lightroom, adjust it, some black and white. The video, simple. I didn't do no color grading, just took it as it was from the camera, just, you know, play with the rotation, time into the music, done.
Got it.
Whereas with like sports, you watch a sports show on TV, you have like the score, the broadcast, everything. When they score a goal, the different angles, the celebrations, the transitions to show the replays. So I do all that stuff as well. I don't do it live
right now. You got to
now.
include all that? It's not just like a promo video, like a demo?
No, it's not.
Wow.
No, not just.
You got to put the score
so,
and everything? Wow.
Oh, yeah. So we'll have like the scores, flashbacks, and like we post live. So this is just for social media. So it's not like actually like a live TV show, but it's like we post on the go. So as soon as the quarter ends, like within a minute, the score is posted. So people who aren't at the game can see the score. They can share it live. And so every quarter will post the scores with clips from the quarter and photos from the quarter. So you got to think, it's like, not only are we doing all this, we're editing this on the go and rendering it out, posting on social media. Now you got to think about the hashtags, tagging the players, the coaches. Like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like an ordeal, like a process.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? Like, hey, you sound like you're very experienced in it, right? And that's what it comes down to, making your life easier by the more you do, right? It's just kind of spending hours and hours going at your craft. But yeah, like just going back to that event and other clients that you had, you know, as creative individuals, we're constantly faced with multiple challenges and like those delayed gratifications, right? And essentially every aspect of our lives, personally and professionally. So when you do a project like that, you know, keep in mind, it takes like a week, 3 weeks, maybe a month. That delayed gratification is quite evident. You know, you don't feel that reward until it's completed. But that's what we live for. You know what I mean? Because when it is completed and we see the final product and we see people's reactions to it, you know, or just getting that professional acknowledgement in the industry, potential clients and whatever have you, that is what we strive towards. That's what makes it all worth it for us. So I want to know from you, like, how do you cope with moments of despair or lack of motivation when it does come to your artistry?
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, something I'm still working on personally. I don't feel like that I have the answer. There's people that are struggling, but how I personally deal with it is just I try to keep working. I try to keep being creative. So like, if I have a point where, like, actually right now, the last month or so has been my personal slow period with sports. Like things kind of died down as kids are starting to go back to school and whatnot, and now basketball season is just starting again. So I try to get through it just by, hey, you know what, this is what I do. Let me just keep working. Let me just keep reaching out to people. I might not be getting paid, right? But it always pays me in the future. Right. So I picked up 2 new clients and a few gigs, like the gig I did with you, right? By just getting out there, putting my name out there. And it also keeps me sane, because if I'm not doing that, like I'm at home, right? It's like I work from home and I like, I'll go psychotic here. It's like, just
I respect that so much. It's like, because our jobs require us mostly to work from home because the bulk of the project is editing. Let's be honest, 80%. But like, I like that you just take on gigs just to get out of the house or create gigs for yourself, right? Just to, I love that, man.
Like I really have to, because a lot of the work. So for example, with the basketball league right now, I'm managing the media for it. We'll go out. I don't even go out. That's the thing. Like I contract my team to go out to capture the content.
Oh, wow.
And so, so they go on the weekends and get it. So like I'm at home on the weekend and then I'm at home all week going through the content.
Right.
So it's like, I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm in prison sometimes. Like we're just here stuck in the house.
Yeah.
Like I got to get out. So
100%.
That's kind of what I do, even whether it's like this situation where I just need to get out the house, or if it's like I'm in a creative low, there's not much going on for me. It's like, just let me get out. And the same thing that my biggest challenge, and even beyond not having work to do, is not being able to be creative. You have those times, it's like, for writers, they
100%.
call it writer's block.
Yeah.
Like that moment where it's like, man, I have this thing I kind of want to do, but I cannot see the vision.
Yeah.
I cannot create it. And that's rare for me. Like, I'm so like,
It's all,
you know,
you're always on point.
yeah. So when it happens, it really hits me hard because it's so rare, and I really don't know how to get through that. So if anyone has answers, I'm all ears. But for me personally, what I do is I go back to the very beginning. It's like, what inspires you? What inspired you, right? I'll go watch some of the people that I love their work on Instagram or YouTube. I'll go watch some of my old work, my favorites. I'll go watch it again. And sometimes, like, I'll see a video I haven't seen for like a year. I'm like, oh my goodness, I was right. And I try to get that emotional spark going, because that's usually where creativity flows.
Of course,
from an emotional spark.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to do when I have a creative doll, is reflect on my past favorite work, reflect on some of my favorite creatives' current work, and try and get that emotional spark going again, and find something new, or just get a different environment. Listen to different music.
Yeah.
Right. I listen to a lot of hip hop because of sports. Listen to something else. Watch something completely different than what I'm used to. Right. Maybe a documentary. I usually don't watch documentaries, but maybe watch that. And who knows? Right. Just try and get out of what you are used to, because that's also maybe why that doll's there. So that's kind of how I deal with that.
And sometimes it's just simply taking a step back, right, to avoid burning out. Like, as much as like, we want to, agree or, believe in that concept of just plowing through it, and I mean, just it'll figure itself out, sort itself out. There have been times where I just had to take a step back, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're just kind of sick of the work, or you're just you know what I mean, like in a rut. So take some time off. Like this tour that I was so grateful to be part of was a perfect example of, leading up to it, I was just always in my room editing or just doing odd film projects here and there. And then it gave me finally the opportunity to just kind of get out, work at the same time, but I was also able to travel and like connect with individuals like yourself, like this broader team. And that's what I live for, right? Like, it's like, what better way to serve your mental health than to, like you said, get out of the house, or get out of your own head, I should really say, right? So love that attitude. And I want to know from you, like, what advice would you give to those individuals who struggle to create or fear being rejected, getting creative blocks, things like that?
Yeah, do what you love, man. At the end of the day, it's like, you gotta, if you don't love this, you're gonna quit sooner or later. Might as well quit now.
Exactly.
Like,
100%,
I know that's kind of
right?
blunt, but
I love that.
But I'll keep it 100%, man. If you don't love this, find something else that you love and do. Because it's like video editing is tedious. Right?
100%.
Video editing is so tedious.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just talked to another homie just yesterday who's like, you know what, I'm going to stick to photography strictly because of how tedious video editing is. So I'm like, I don't blame you, man. So it's like, but like, I love videos. I don't like, I know it's tedious, but it's like, I just want to see that result so badly. I'll go through the pain, even if I'm not getting paid. Right. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I just want to see that result. So it's like, do what you love, because if you love it, you'll find a way through it. That's the number one thing. And at the same time, be realistic.
Yeah.
Be realistic. Like, you don't want to, I mean, I'm not saying don't chase your dreams, but don't die for your dreams, right? Plan your dreams out. Take your time and figure out how are you going to actually make your dreams come true. A lot of people want to like be creative. So want to be a director. They want to create this short film or whatever, but they don't really know what they want. Like, okay, cool. But beyond that, in your lifestyle, like, what do you see for your life? Because I mean, like, for me personally, I'll be real. Like, I'm single. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm building, I'm I just know the way I work is not conducive for a relationship right now, because I'm really trying to build an empire. It's starting to grow. Like,
so happy you're transparent about this.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say I'm so happy you're like transparent, because that's something that we as creatives or entrepreneurs, whatever have you, like kind of struggle to basically explain to people, right? Is like just conceptualize like the idea that, it's not a conventional life and it requires us to be all over the place. So how can we create a lasting relationship? Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's not possible, but just from my direction, I know I prioritize my work, and I've tried to talk to girls, and it's not that they're great people, but I just like, you know what, I will cancel my date to go for a shoot that just popped up last second.
Same.
It's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or just your mind will be, or you rather spend the weekend editing so you can get ahead of on a project so you can work on another project.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, okay, you're cool. I do like you. I vibe with you, but you don't come over this project that I'm working on building. You don't come over my dreams. I'm sorry. that's just what it is. And like, imagine telling a girl that like within the first 2 weeks dating her, like
No,
say
you
goodbye
can't.
to that.
No, yeah,
So
exactly.
so that's why I say like know what you want, because again, I'm not saying you can't have a relationship. I'm not saying you can't have different things, but I know
Right.
for me, the level that I'm personally pushing and the amount of
Right.
hours I dedicate to this,
Yeah.
there's certain things I have to sacrifice, but I know what I want, right? And
Yes.
I'm willing to wait to build my family, to finish building my empire.
That's
So,
100% well said. And that's something that every creative should kind of instill in their mind. Like you said, it can be done. Like there's people we know, like they're in relationships, they date and things like that.
mhm,
But it's at the end of the day what you really want. Like I know situations, and I've been in that situation where I've been in a long-term relationship where it's taken away from, my focus or my path as an artist,
mhm.
because your mind's somewhere else, right? It's only natural. You're only human. So you kind of have to assess, like, are you going to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or do you want to go full force all in? Well, if you want to go full force all in, you're going to have to make those sacrifices. And if that means, not being in a relationship at this time, maybe not going to a certain party, I'm just so
Yep.
happy like we share that same mindset. That's something that I struggle with. I'm still a human. I'm sure you do as well. Like at the end of the day, like, we sometimes, want that break, or we want to like, maybe have that leisurely fun as well. But then we'll look
Mhm.
at our list of directives and we'll look at our agenda and we'll say, no, but what really matters, what really counts, right? Because
Yeah.
I discovered in this pandemic, I'm a bit of a workaholic, maybe more so than I'm giving myself
I
credit for.
definitely am. I know
You know
I
what I
am.
mean,
I don't
buddy?
know, I don't
Yeah.
know if it's a good or bad thing, but
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like I will definitely like work to death if I have to. And that's what you mean is like, don't kill yourself for your dream, but if it's worth it to you, do it if you have to. You know what I mean? It's like that common conception of like, if you want, you want to be successful when you want it more than breathing.
Mhm.
And it's like that's how I'm feeling at this stage of my life. It's like we're reaching the bottleneck, everything's kind of coming together. There's so much more like risk that I'm taking. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
leaving a current job, for this job kind of thing. And it's like it's do or die, like I'm all in kind of thing. So I'm so happy that you agree with me, and you're on the same mindset, and you're sharing that insight, educating our audience, if they have, they're on that dilemma, right? If they're facing which road they should take. So I think it's so important to have that for sure. Yeah, honestly, man, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, having this conversation with me. It really means a lot, sharing your insight. You seem like a very hardworking, driven individual, like I've mentioned before, earlier in the podcast episode. And I'm really excited for what's to come on your portfolio.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and appreciate the time that you've given me to continue to share my passion and have this conversation. This was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate that. Thank you again for coming on the podcast. Thank you, everybody else, for listening, and we'll talk soon.